Hi, welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to talk about broth. Now you may call it broth, you might call it stock, but it's a very simple thing and it's almost a free food. If you've already counted the cost of your chicken or your beef or your veggies into the cost of your meals, then what you do with the scraps and the leftovers is basically for free. So today I'm going to do a turkey broth. So I have a turkey carcass left over. I've got a lot of the meat trimmed off of it. Mostly there's just little bits of scrap meat. This is going to go into my crock pot with some water. That's really all you absolutely need for a broth is some sort of a base, water, and a way to cook it low and slow. So crock pot is great. A large pot on the stove, a Dutch oven, turned down to low. Any way you can cook it for multiple hours. We're going to want to cook this for 24 to 48 hours. All right, so into my crock pot, I'm going to put my base. Now, I'm using this leftover turkey. In addition to a leftover turkey, you can use leftover chicken. You can use the bones. You can buy soup bones from your butcher shop, beef bones. That's something you can just go ahead and purchase right out, but leftovers is definitely the way to go. Now, if you use beef bones or you buy bones from your butcher, you are going to want to roast them first. But since this turkey carcass was already cooked before we ate the turkey from it, he's going right here into the crock pot. Now, into the crock pot, I'm going to add enough water to cover the entire meat. Okay, so I'm just going to continue to add water until the water is over the top of the meat, but not out of the container. Now, in addition, you can go ahead and add whatever seasonings you like. I don't over season my broth so that depending on the recipe I'm using it for, it can be more bland or it can have different, stronger flavors. Since I'm not boiling this, I can bring it right up to the top without a worry of boil over. So I want to make sure that all the meat is completely covered with water. Okay, I might add about one more little cup to this when I'm done here, but we want to bring it right up to the top and then add any seasonings you want. Now, my turkey was very well seasoned when he was cooked, so this is already pretty much as much seasoned as I want. I am going to add just a tiny little bit, just a little bit of garlic powder. Not much at all, and a little bit of onion powder and a little bit of salt. I'm not going to add chopped onions. I'm not going to add chopped garlic because I'm going to filter this out to have no pieces in it once it's done. So I don't want to put pieces in now. I'd rather lose this little bits of powder, and I'm adding a little salt. I'd rather lose this little bit of powder when I filter this. So now that this is fully submerged, we're going to put the lid on and we're going to turn this on low. And we're going to cook this on low for 24 to 48 hours. We do not want to boil. If you turn this on high and you start boiling, you're going to cause the collagen that you're pulling out of these bones to break down more than you want. You'll still get a really good broth or stock, but it won't have that thick, bone brothy kind of feel to it. Now, in addition to a carcass like this turkey or like some chicken, like I said, you can get soup bones from the butcher. You can do those, roast them first. The other thing that I like to do is save scraps. So any veggie scraps that I have, onion peels, garlic peels, tops of carrot, anything you cut vegetables, throw them in a Ziploc. When that Ziploc is full, put them in, do the same thing. Cover them with water, a little bit of salt. You certainly won't need garlic powder or onion powder in a bag that has garlic and onion. A little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and cook that down. That'll get you some vegetable broth. So this will be turkey broth, which I'll use as a base in soups. I'll use it to thin out casseroles. You can use broth or stock in so many recipes, and having it made at home, all this is basically costing me is the electricity to run the crock pot and maybe the cost of the water. So broth stock basically is a free food, something for nothing, something you always need to have on your shelf. Now we'll come back in 24 or 48 hours and we'll see what this looks like. All right, so our broth is a little more than 24 hours in. It's still on low in the crock pot. We can see we've got a nice color going on here. Our bones are falling apart. We can literally pick some of them up and have bones with the meat just falls right off. But I'm not done with this. I'm going to let it go another 24 hours. So at this point, our water level has dropped. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to top this off with some more water. Right up to the top again. And if you want a seasoned broth, now is when you're going to give this a taste test and add any more seasons you want. Since I use broth as a base in so many different recipes, I don't want a ton of seasoning taste to this. So I'm not really going to add any more seasoning to this at this point. I'm not even going to add extra salt because I can salt the dishes I need as I go. So I'm going to put the lid back on. And I'm going to leave it on low, and we're going for about another 24 hours, or basically till tomorrow afternoon. Now, if you are using a basic style crock pot or slow cooker, and it doesn't have a timer on it, know that if you set it to low, high, or warm, it will probably shut off after about 12 hours. So every once in a while, I'll just come here in the kitchen as I'm thinking about it, turn it off, leave it off for about a minute or so, not long enough for it to cool, but long enough for its internal timer to reset, and then turn it back on low and leave it go another 10 or so hours until I think about it again. All right, our broth has now been cooking on low in the crock pot for about 48 hours. It is basically as broken down as it's going to get. Everything has fallen apart. There are no large pieces of the carcass in here. It is all down to little bitty pieces. So what we're going to do is skim everything out of this except for the liquids. We're going to get all of this out. What you can do is either scoop it like this with a spoon, or if you would rather, you can take a large bowl and a colander and pour it through the colander and skim everything out. Don't forget to put your bowl underneath. You want the liquid this time. And then we are going to be able to save this for use. So this can either be used right away if you want to make a soup or something right away. You can put it in the fridge, just put it into a glass jar and use it within a couple days. This quantity you probably won't use within a few days. I don't know how many. I'm going to say 3 to 5 days in the fridge would be a probably safe estimate. You can freeze it. I would not freeze one big block. I would put it into smaller containers and freeze it, thinking about how much you might use at a time, 2 to 4 cups. Freeze it in 2 to 4 cup sizes, or you can can it if you are someone who cans. So I'm going to can it. I have 7 quart jars ready. If you're going to can it, the recommendation is that you, after you pick out all your big pieces, that you let it cool, let the fat rise to the top, skim the fat off, then reheat it before putting it in your jars. That is the recommendation. That would be do as I say, not as I do. I am not going to skim off all this fat. I like the fat. It's the flavor. I am going to get all the little pieces out, though, before I put it in my jars. So I'm going to grab myself a big bowl and a colander and pour all this through and get out all the pieces. All the big pieces are out of this. I poured it through a fine mesh strainer, kind of like one you might use for sweet tea. And I have removed all the big pieces. Like I said, there is still fat on the top of this. I am not taking all of that off. You can see that there's still a little bit of it. I'm not going to bring this all the way down to cold and take that off. That little bit that's left that didn't come out through the strainer is fine for me. If you're following USDA regulations, chill this and take the fat off. Now, I'm going to put this to be canned, so I want hot jars and I want a hot canner, so I want this to be hot. So I've put it back in the crock pot and I've got it back turned on so that it can get hot enough to get into the jars. But we can see after those days what a really nice thick color broth that is. You can see it here in the clear container a lot better. So after 2 days, we have this really, really great broth. Basically, all it cost us was a couple minutes of our time, some water out of our tap, and the electricity to run the crock pot. This is the ultimate something for nothing free item you can make.